Okay. Calling this meeting to order, please rise and able for the question.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes. Okay, thank you. This meeting is called pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Law. This meeting of October 15, 2024 was included in the listed meetings notice sent to the Hunterdon County Democrat Courier News on January 3, 2024, posted on the bulletin board at Borough Hall on that date, and has remained continuously posted as required. In addition, a copy of this notice is and has been available to the public and is on file in the office of the Borough Clerk. Roll call, please, Carla.
Sure, Councilwoman Engelhardt,
Here.
Councilwoman Fasara. Here. Councilman Levitt,
Here.
Council President Long,
Here.
Councilman Parker,
Here.
Council Vice President Rosetti.
Here.
And Mayor Carroll.
Here, thank you. We don't have any presentations tonight. Okay, so regarding my report, I've got a couple of things just to talk about. One is on the agenda is approving best practices inventory. This is something that is done, I believe, every year by the state of New Jersey, where they send out a list of questions to be answered to the CFO and the borough or the municipality to check on how well we are following rules and regs and how streamlined we are, and whether we're following code rules and making sure there's enough affordable housing and things like that. So that inventory was done by Bill Hance. The COA stuff was checked by Beth McManus. I reviewed some of the questions that he asked me to opine on, which was not a lot. And in order to be in compliance with the state, you have to score 35. Right now we're at a score of 42, so we're in good shape, and that gets us. If you don't score at least a 35, you are ineligible for state aid. So this keeps our eligibility. So you will find that, and that's just an explanation. You will also find on the agenda, that's something I sent to all of you today, which was the county recreation, the grant that they have out right now for recreation upgrades for parks and trails, and asking you all to support a resolution in support of the grant. The grant was due right around our last meeting. Mike Campion and Bill Hance put together the grant to the grant that Councilwoman Engelhardt applied for and got of $73,000 could not be used at all for trail restoration or for stormwater in parks. This grant can be, so the focus of the grant really is to get the stormwater at Tuckamurgan under control, because every time they mulch or do trail restoration, it all washes out as soon as we have a big storm. So Remington Vernick turned around the engineering in 24 hours, very quickly, because we were hitting the critical deadline, and the application went in after our last meeting because it had to. And so today you all got a copy of it, but there is the one missing piece that we have the extension on is for the resolution of support to apply for this grant. So that's what that's about. Also is some version, I'm looking at our attorney, some version of the historic map extension. This was, as I think all of you, I think it all happened this year, will recall, the Historic Preservation Commission came before this body asking for consideration of expanding the historic district and bringing every house that was in existence in 34 into the historic district, because some of them were missed originally when this map was done. The council was unanimous to let that happen. So the process went back to the planning board. The planning board and the Historic Preservation Commission had a public hearing on the map expansion. There were a few people who had, very good dialogue and concerns, and one parcel over at the Episcopalian Church was removed separately. Somewhere along this train of getting this thing through, the resolution from the planning board never got sent to council. So, but the resolution removing the one parcel got sent to council. So our attorney was like, we're walking with one leg, did an ordinance for us that will do what they want us to do, but it's really inelegant, and I wanna thank Councilman Levitt for pointing that out. It's very inelegant. I like to fix government. I don't want in 10 years somebody looking at this ordinance going, what is this mess? So Attorney Corsini contacted the planning board. They went hunting for the resolution. It had never been signed, which is why it was never sent. It got signed, we got a copy of it, I think, yesterday. And he did manage to draft an ordinance rather quickly. It's been sent to the planning board attorney for and so he's gonna work on it. If we get to that point in the
Yeah,
agenda,
Switching over.
we're gonna just table it until he can get there.
Don't
You're done with
worry,
it?
you have to switch it now.
Okay, so maybe you can
I'm sending to Carl.
send to Carlos, so Carlos can print out copies, okay.
Wait,
that-
hold on.
Huh?
Liz, this is what I just sent you, so disregard that one.
Yeah.
Carla, I saw your email, thank you.
Kara's changes were not substantive, so I just.
Oh, good, okay,
Real quick.
all right, Kara is the planning.
Do I
board
have
attorney.
to attach the resolution?
Yeah.
The 19
A and
pages?
B, that stays the same. Exhibit A is the resolution with their exhibit. Exhibit B, as I said in my email, is the final plan from Clark Payton and Hints that they refer to. I have never seen this plan, but they refer to it in their emails. It's the final plan adopted.
And Eileen sent that.
I've never seen.
And we sent it yesterday.
She sent the resolution with the April Clark Payton Hints report. They
Oh.
refer to a September one.
Oh,
I don't have that. The
okay,
final one that Clark Hints supported was all the changes incorporated.
okay,
Their resolution has one from April.
Got
And Kara didn't comment one way or other that they were the same report. I can't assume that they are.
okay, all
So,
right,
but I mean, I was hoping that one of them would chime in and say, either they are the same or here's the other one. I
okay,
did it the way I had it, so.
got it. Okay,
Are you sending it to me now?
I'm saying, I'm just, yeah, sorry.
okay.
Yeah, let me go look for the.
I also wanna just update the council on the retail ordinance that I mentioned a couple weeks ago, where everybody from the FCP to the council to me, to Beth McManus, our planner, everybody thought that this thing was done by the council, and it never was. And it really should have been started at the planning board and then sent to the council. So, you know, everybody 3 weeks ago reaffirmed that they wanted to see that happen, and I believe Councilman Levitt said he'd like to see it happen before the end of the year. So there's a subcommittee on the planning board, because of the quorum issues, it can only be 4, but there's 5 members and only 4 of them can be on at a time. And it's myself, it's the chair, Karen Giffen, it's Councilwoman Fasaro, it's Brian Semino and Dennis Shob, and Beth McManus runs the meetings. She went off to Spain, as you all know, for 12 days. As soon as she got back, this subcommittee has been having a lot of meetings. There was one immediately, there was one last week, which was a week later. There was one yesterday, there is one this Friday, trying to get this retail ordinance done for the council. So once the subcommittee is okay with whatever it is, they're gonna present it to the planning board. The planning board may further tweak it, at which point then it will come here as a recommendation to pass. For it to be introduced and then a full public hearing. So just so you know what's going on in this, I mean, it's very complicated. It's not as easy as just saying everything's gonna be retail only on the first floor, because there's been a lot of discussions about where the retail only is, what we do with side streets that are currently in the same zone, which is the DB1 zone. So right now, the DB1 zone runs from the Monument to Church Street, and then it's also part of Mine Street and Catner Street and Maple Avenue. None of those buildings actually have front doors that face Main Street. So the discussion is, perhaps we're okay letting those side streets have offices and not retail. If they wanna have retail, we're okay with that too. Retail only first floors between the Monument and Church Street. Second floors would be allowed to have offices, possibly services, that's a big discussion about services. And of course, apartments on second and third floors as well, or fourth floors if they have them. We've been having a lot of conversations about the fact that our ordinance currently uses SIC code to identify use. There's been a lot of properties that have been flagged by people wanting to move into buildings in town by our new zoning officer who follows DCA code 100%. So it's not like, I mean, I can say to him, when you turn somebody down, give him a reason why and be nice about it, but I can't say to him, you can't turn them down. He reports to the DCA and follows their rules and regs. Everybody in construction, although we employ them and we hire them, we really have we cannot overstep state reg. So they report to the state, so, and in a previous life, I was telling this to our attorney today, in a previous life, someplace else I worked, right before I started there, that zoning officer told one of the inspectors not to do something, and 2 days later, the DCA showed up and did a full audit of the office. So I don't wanna see that happen here. So, like I said, I have certain parameters that I can guide him in as far as what he tells the public, how he handles the public and things like that, but I cannot interfere in his job. Because that is a big no-no. So until we fix the ordinance, he is responding to SIC codes and they are very precise about what can be in our downtown. And our planning board, seems to be, and I'll ask the councilwoman who serves on it, they seem to be very responsive to wanting to change the zone and bring back a robust economy scale of retail, which is a long game, as I have pointed out. Clinton Town changed their zoning to retail only about 24 years ago. Or 25 years ago, it was last year, 23 or 24 years later, they finally got rid of the last service on Main Street. It took that long to flip. So this is a long game to give that economy scale so that people are shopping down the street. Which is the way it was 40 years ago, and then 40 years ago, the Flemington Mall opened, and then Bridgewater Commons opened, and Main Street basically shut for business. And the borough changed some of the ordinances because we had no retail left. Nobody wanted to be in town. Now, nobody wants to be in malls, and they're closing all over this country. Everybody seems to want to be back downtown, but we gotta give them a reason to want to be back downtown. So I just wanted to, if you have any questions about any of this, there is also in this retail only ordinance, it is, there's language in there that is supportive of leaving the Victorian houses or putting them back together if they are currently offices or if they're currently mixed use, allowing them to go back to single family homes and putting more people on Main Street. There seems to be some support among the subcommittee on that. And then going further down North Main Street, there's been a look at what's down there as well, and possibly including some of those properties to connect, like the Steve's Corner up with more ability to have retail, because right now some of those are not allowed to have retail. So, so that's where that ordinance is. Again, we're meeting Friday. This is the 4th draft we're looking at. I think that this may be the last meeting before it goes to the full planning board for discussion. And I would expect, if that is the case, that it's gonna end up here for a look by the council before it's introduced with our planner to discuss what's in it. I would expect that hopefully, by maybe December, once it gets to the planning board. But the planning board may have a lot to weigh in on, I'm not sure. I also wanted to just comment on, I have been getting a tremendous amount of emails about T-Berry's and what is happening with T-Berry's and how much it's costing T-Berry's to reopen. And I want to set the record straight for the council. There is no bigger champion in this town to reopen T-Berry's than me. I will tell everybody that flat out. I have been a customer of theirs since they first opened in 1994. I'm sorry, 2004. But there's been issues. I mean, they purchased a building that was allowed it to be a restaurant, but it had been an office building for some lawyers, and there were only a few lawyers in there and staff. Going to a restaurant is a massive change of use, massive. Just because you can do it doesn't mean it's easy. And, you know, whoever the contractors are, or whoever the architect is, there might have been like perhaps some bad advice. The code is the code, the law is the law, municipal land use law, or DCA code, or DEP law, whatever it is. So the intensity of a restaurant over an office requires some sprinkler systems. T-Berry's was blindsided by that. It is what it is, like, we can't undo the law. That is DCA fire safety law. It's expensive and it wasn't in their budget, and I feel terrible about that, but there's, you know, caveat emptor, it's on the buyer to know what they're buying into. Regarding this water bill that they received and had to pay, again, going from a few people flushing a toilet a couple times a day to the intensity of water use of a restaurant, the calculations are done by the Department of Environmental Protection. They set the standard on how many credits, how many, I think that's the word, how many units, I'm sorry, that's the word, how many units a restaurant has based on how many seats they're going to hold in that restaurant. And so it was many more than a law office, and those units all cost money. The calculation is done by our CFO. It is based on a 2021 ordinance that brought it into alignment with our sewer ordinance. So our sewer ordinance has been on the books for years. This brought our water ordinance into the same compliance. It is done by almost every municipality that has a water department. And what it does is it buys in that property for all their new units to pay into our capital debt of the water department, rather than have it be the burden of everybody in this room and everybody else in town who has been paying the debt for years. That's what it does. You guys wanna do it, that's up to you, but that's what it does. It brings it into compliance, and it's been on the books. Sewer department runs the exact same way and has for decades, but the water department never did. So in 2021, the council passed an ordinance to do the same thing, to also help offset the debt and not have everybody else pay down the debt and let them buy into the debt. So that's the deal. And again, I mean, a lot of this is due diligence, and I feel terrible, and I want T-Berry's to desperately reopen. But I just want to set the record straight, because there's an awful lot of, you know, Facebook famous people out there who like to chatter and send me hate mail based on policies of the town. There's only one policy in the town, which is that ordinance. Everything else is state law. Whether it's municipal land use law and how they had to come before the planning board, asking for waivers or variances or site plans or whatever. Change of use, also under the municipal land use law and DCA, DEP requiring how many gallons they have to buy for a restaurant. All of this is out of our hands. You know, we're just the shepherds of everybody else's laws. So that's my report. I'm happy to answer any questions that the council might have on any of this stuff. But personally, I think that ordinance requiring people to buy in to all everybody else's debt, it's fair. That's my personal opinion. I think it's fair. Did it hit T-Berry's hard because it's a massive change of use? Yes. But, you know, that's what it is. You guys wanna repeal it? That's on you. So I'm done, okay?
It's the first time I'm hearing this.
Well, I do a lot of research when I get a lot of angry phone calls. I do a lot of research. Warning, warning, warning. So so that's my report. Council President Long.
So I got a couple things. I'll have a more comprehensive fire and rescue report next time. But from the OEM, this comes from our director, Brian McNally. Tonight's agenda includes the approval of the 2024 Emergency Operations Plan. This is a critical step in our biannual certification with the state of New Jersey, ensuring that our borough remains compliant and prepared for potential disasters. The EOP serves as a comprehensive guide that outlines the roles, responsibilities, and procedures for effectively managing emergencies. Coordinates response efforts across all departments, ensuring the safety and well-being of the community during a disaster. Please take a moment for me to thank all of the department heads and who contributed to updating their respective annexes for this submission. Additionally, October is both Fire Safety Month and Pet Disaster Planning Month. Pet preparedness is crucial, as pets can often be reason residents hesitate to evacuate during emergencies. Please highlight a few steps residents can take to ensure their pets are protected. Identification, make sure your pet's got an ID, a collar. Notification, use animal rescue stickers to inform first responders of the pets in your home. Evacuation plan, always evacuate with your pets and know where you can take them, whether it's pet-friendly shelter or a friend's home. And then disaster kits, prepare for a pet disaster kit with essentials like food, water, medications, identification materials. Thank you, and McNally looks forward to the council's approval of the EOP to help ensure the borough is ready for any emergencies we may face. The only other thing I had was, I did have some prepared remarks incidentally about zoning. And I wanted to bring up an article I saw this weekend. And whenever there's good news about Flemington, we're all very happy, right? It's always nice to have good news. So New Jersey 101.5 published an article, and I'm gonna read a little piece of it. If you're curious about what New Jersey's hottest town is right now, I think you're gonna be pretty surprised. Enter Flemington, Hunterdon County's cozy, historic, and growing bedroom community. Flemington's a great mix of small town charm, including historic buildings and tree-lined streets. Speaking of historic, 65% of their historic buildings are on the National Historic Register. It's a great place for farm-to-table dining, great boutiques, and a really strong wellness culture. It's turning into a hub for festivals and cultural events, all wrapped into that country town vibe. What's really got people buzzing is the long-awaited Courthouse Square project. The people have already begun to see the change in the revitalized Main Street. Over the past couple of years, businesses have been snapping up properties. And that's where I want to stop. Because I read that and I got thinking, and I was wondering, what do I see with my own eyes? And I see Main Street, and I see a lot of properties for sale, for lease, and they're empty. And I can't understand why that is. That always surprises me. So what I've learned since I've been on this council is that, since 2020, nothing is perfect. All right, seen a lot of stuff. Trust me, nothing's perfect. You can't make a perfect decision. The governing body is not a perfect entity. I'm sorry. But we make and look, councils before us, people who passed ordinances, previous mayors for years. You do the best you can with the information you got in the moment you got it. And you hope you're doing the best thing. And you hope you're doing right. And what's right for Flemington is what we know is right is a lot of businesses, as the mayor mentioned, in this town, flourishing, especially on Main Street. Has to be Main Street. So what I wanted to request from my fellow council members is, as we kind of think about all this, I want to request that everybody does a bit more homework, myself included, on zoning. And as a council, what we can do with zoning. For example, we took another look at the cannabis ordinance and we changed it. We changed it because that's what the council can do. I want you to consider not just these laws, but what about fees? Like, we can ask questions about these fees, because that's what the council can do. And I want the question ultimately to be, and this would be the essential question here from my fellow council members is, are the zoning laws and practices consistent with Flemington's needs? That is, we need a variety of businesses, we know that. We know commerce has changed. We know there's a lot of different things that weren't here back in the 80s, when I remember it being pretty active. A lot of the businesses that were here way back, honestly, are starting to become more popular again. Markets, social centers, a lot of third places, which is the kind of buzzword I hear in planning groups and chats that I'm getting in. But again, are these zoning laws and practices consistent with our need? So these laws can be powerful tools for attracting and encouraging businesses to start up or move to Main Street. There's somebody out there right now who wants a business on Main Street, but they can't do it. And so what I was hoping we could look at is what we're already doing that's well is best practices. We got mixed use zoning in this town. We got an arts and cultural district. We've got outdoor events that attract vendors, just to name a few. But I think another essential question is, we need to have an incentive. You need to incentivize somebody starting a business in this town, and how do you do that? Well, I'm always a kind of sideways guy. I'll look at something head on if I know, okay, I can work with this. But I often come from the side, and I wanna suggest that we think about ways that we could incentivize by perhaps maybe relaxing some restrictions on Main Street. Maybe we could perhaps streamline or fast track certain approvals on Main Street. Maybe we could have temporary businesses that can set up a certain type of business to see if it'll be a hit. And if it's not gonna work, then they're not gambling their savings. Can we do this? Can we partner with landlords to better meet the unique and varied needs of potential businesses in their rental space? And I'll tell you something you all know. It's sad to see an empty storefront. Doesn't feel good. You know what it looks like. And you react to that. Especially when you know what Flemington once was. So I'm gonna sum it up with a statement I prepared, and I want people to really think this over. I think we need to have a very focused discussion about zoning as council members and a governing body. We need to act purposely and swiftly. We can amend our ordinances, take a look at our fees, and be dedicated 100% to small business development and the economic growth of Flemington Borough. Small businesses should be the lifeblood of Flemington Borough. We should be fighting for that. We must not rely solely upon Courthouse Square to electrify and pack Main Street with energy and activity. It's going to take an examination of our zoning laws and fees, so I ask this governing body to start getting its hands dirty. We need to start this work yesterday, so that future articles aren't talking about us merely being up and coming. We want press that's going to refer to us as revitalized, invigorated, or I'd even say reborn. And that's my report. Thanks.
Okay, great, thank you. And hopefully, you know, when you'll see this ordinance for Main Street sooner rather than later. And I do just wanna say, with interest rates at close to 7%. You know, it's hard for anybody to build these right now for commercial purposes, it really is, sadly. So, Council Vice President Rossetti?
Thank you, Mayor. So I attended virtually the Shade Tree Commission meeting last week. I just wanted to quickly mention, I see on the agenda tonight for the authorizing of the submission of their community forestry plan. So I just wanted to thank everyone on the Shade Tree Commission who's been working on that literally longer than I've been liaison with them. So that's a long time coming, and that'll really open up a lot of opportunities for them to be back kind of in good standing with the state Shade Tree Commission, as well as mentioned in their opportunities for grant money to keep doing great work around the borough, protecting our trees. They've been doing really well with Adopt-A-Trees this year. They've used just about all their budget, so everything's going really well on that end. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Engelhardt?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Liz, thanks. Mayor. I do wanna follow up on some of Mayor's comments, specifically about the park grant resolution that we have on the agenda later on tonight. I wanted to thank the mayor and Terry and Mike for moving so fast on that, because we were told about it kind of late in the game, so that was great. I do want to thank the mayor for reaching out to me because, and to Liz as well, because basically our previous research had said that, you know, this type of work was not covered in all the different grants that we were looking at. And it was a little frustrating because it's something we really wanted to do in the park. So we were really thrilled that this grant was applicable for some of the work that we couldn't find funding for. But more importantly, I had done a kind of quick and dirty cost estimate for that work. And so when the mayor reached out to me and she said, what do we need? And I said, this is what we don't have money for. So it was a really just, it was serendipitous, and really great work on everybody's part, so.
Hopefully we'll
thank
get,
everybody.
and hopefully we'll get
And
the
hopefully
money.
we'll get it, yeah, we don't have the money yet, so everybody knock on. Okay, I do want to send my apologies to the police department, because I had misspoke a couple weeks ago, because I had said that the temporary signs about not biking on the street were on the poles, and they weren't, they were on the sign poles, not the electric poles. So I do wanna apologize publicly for that. And I do understand it was a temporary form of signage. I think there was some public criticism about how it was presented, and I don't necessarily know if it was that effective, because it's kind of hard to see. So maybe we work together to kind of, if we're putting up some temporary signage to make it a little more user friendly, I don't know. I wanna mention, as far as school liaisons go, I had mentioned at the last meeting or the meeting before that there was an open seat of the on Fleming Raritan School District, that's our K8 district. We have two borough representatives on that particular district, and one of those two representatives resigned a year early. And so the process for the district, excuse me, is that they collect resumes and then they interview and they appoint for the balance of that term. They did that last week, so I'm happy to report, if people are not aware, that Dr. Warren Buckleitner from Pennsylvania Avenue applied, interviewed, and was appointed to the FRSD board for the remainder of that open slot, which is about a 1 year left in that term. So I want to thank Warren for stepping up and serving our community, because I think that Board of Ed's, is a hard job, and everybody volunteering a little bit, helps. So thank you for that. Sam Fleming House. Sorry, I have a lot of announcements here. Sam Fleming House had a really great pumpkin event last weekend. It's one of our biggest of the year. We went above and beyond last year's turnout with almost about 100 people attending. And I want to thank Councilman Parker and Levitt for stopping by. The next event is with that gentleman in the back of the room there, or Chief and his team are going to be at the Sam Fleming House on November 2nd from 10 to 12 p.m. for cookies, coffee, cups, and canines is what they're calling it. So come down and learn about some history with our heroes. November 2nd, 10 to 12 p.m. We're gonna have the dogs, one of the dogs there doing some demonstrations, and of course, tours of the house are always available when it's open spot. Sorry, let me just get my thoughts here. I do want to correct that article that our councilman chair read. It's actually 65% of the homes are in the district. They're not on the national register, because there is a difference.
That wasn't my mistake.
I know, I'm saying it to her, and I go, no, that was the
I
article.
didn't have a fact checker here.
Yeah. I have to see it, but
Thank you, though. That's-
but
it's enough.
I just want to correct the
That makes
article,
sense.
not
That makes,
the councilman, I'm correcting the article. But it's still important. We have the second largest historic district in the entire state. And I think that we should be proud of that. So I do want to recognize that. Finally, we've been talking about this a while, and I wanted to get some thoughts on the record regarding just in general, not any specific location. Like Mayor was talking about D-Berries, this is more just in general, but in regards to planning, zoning, permitting, and code enforcement. I'm getting feedback from several of my peers up here that we've all been fielding calls and concerns from various different members of the community, whether they're residents or businesses, not-for-profits, all over town, and a variety of different construction issues. zoning, planning, code enforcement, everything. So something's definitely changed that I want us to recognize as a council, and I encourage us to recognize it. Because I realized when we compared notes, I realized there was a kind of unusual amount of complaints filed. It
Mhm.
seems like in the last
Agreed.
12 months or so,
Mhm.
maybe up to 2 years. And I was thinking about why, and I do wanna recognize the fact that 2 years ago, our longtime zoning and construction official retired. I'm not blaming it all on that, but there was a change there. Pat and John, Dave, Ken, all the others in the related roles of, in the related to construction and enforcement in this town, they really do work hard, and they have a very difficult task of interpreting our intentions and our goals. When I say that, we have ordinances, we have master plans, we have district maps, we have lots of stuff that they have to kind of interpret and rule on. And again, I think that it should be noted that the mayor's correct in that it is New Jersey law that allows those officials that grace to interpret. And that's the thing, is that they do interpret. They have the final say, especially when you issue permits, for example. I'm gonna use a very common example. If your permit says you're required to have 9 exit signs, but the code enforcement agency agent, when he comes to do his final inspection, says you need 10, you need 10. That's New Jersey law. So I do wanna say, but with that being said, these same officials have that flexibility. And there's also checks and balances built within our system. Because ordinances are not cut and dry. We find errors in our ordinances all the time, right? And that's where variances and appeals and subcommittees and work on our ordinances come in. So I would really like to propose that we form a subcommittee to address some of these issues, because we've all been approached and recognized that there needs to be some things done. Some changes are very low hanging fruit. I actually worked with the construction clerk last year briefly, because we were hoping to put together some frequently asked questions on the website, like, am I allowed to change out my windows? What do I do with my roof? Decks, paint colors, signage, can I put a shed in my yard? Low hanging fruit. And I recently spoke to the zoning official, and he and I were kind of brainstorming and had some ideas about that. So I would like that. I'd like to pick up the baton and move forward with some of that stuff. But second, I want to talk about a few comments regarding some of the bigger picture items with zoning and planning in general. As the mayor mentioned, the planning board is reformed essentially a committee that was active in 2023. The planning board was focused on some other just as important goals like the checklist in most of this year. But they've gotten back to this subcommittee where they're basically going zone by zone and kind of reviewing everything for ordinances. I want to stress that we all up here on this council won't necessarily agree with the subcommittee's recommendations, and we are not necessarily obligated to vote for the recommendations. That's why it goes back and forth between council and planning board. Is there room for improvement? Most definitely. SIC codes can be limiting and helpful. It depends. We can't redo the entire ordinance at once. You have to do it step by step. The master plan defines our ideals and our aspirations, and that's what we're starting to see on Main Street and what we hope to see. But we also can't rule by aspirational zoning. What we want to see and what's on the books right now are two different things, and we need to follow the law. That's something that's very important when it comes to a planning board member, especially. I always saw myself as almost like a juror. You're voting on the law. Could we provide more flexibility while amending those ordinances and allowing for officers, construction code officers discretion in certain outline situations, yes. When Pat and John came and introduced themselves to us 2 years ago, one of the things I think we all said is, we'd like to know what's going on. In previous years, perhaps there was a little too much interpretation of what the planning board and the council wanted. But I think it's also kind of gone 180 degrees in the other direction where it's maybe a little too strict. So I'd like to work with our zoning and planning and code enforcement officers to talk about, okay, you know, what are our goals? What's the bottom line here? We can't tell them what to do, as the mayor mentioned. They have that interpretation controlled by law, but we can express some of our concerns and see if we can be, you know, sensitive to some issues in town that we've seen coming. We've seen a lot of lately. I think I'd like to see us as the municipality team up with landlords to help potential retail spaces become retail spaces. A lot of the spaces, from what I understand, are you know, right now, old doctor's office, old offices, and it costs a lot of money to pull those out. So maybe with the help of the FCP, find some grant money to be able to help potential tenants and landlords, so things are not sitting empty. But I also think beggars can't be choosers. If we have an opportunity, we should take it. I do encourage the planning board to perhaps consider putting together like a resolution compliance procedure. I think that might help us get through some of these bumpy times. Maybe a procedure where zoning, construction, and permitting office can work together might be helpful. Finally, I want to encourage, and I don't want to correct, because I do not have their ordinance in front of us, but I do think we should check with that comment you made about Clinton, because I don't necessarily know if Clinton has that ordinance that you mentioned, Marcia, so we probably should.
What, the retail only?
Yeah, the first
Councilman
floor.
Mike Humphrey is the one who told me that they just left in 2023, in March, that they just lost their last service business on Main Street.
Right, and it came from Mike Humphrey, so
So
I
he was
just
an
think-
elected official there,
I realized,
but he was an elected official there.
I realized that, but I thought I was told by another elected official something different.
I can read it to you. I mean,
Is it in
I
there?
can read the ordinance. Use number 2 is office. I
Yeah,
mean, it's on,
so I think, I just.
It is
I think
number
there is
2 is
office
office.
allowed on the first.
and there
floor.
are at least 5 still non-retail businesses by my count. I
Thank
went
you,
there
Trent.
2 weeks ago for lunch.
Interesting, okay.
And also that's only for the strip between,
Oh, yeah,
You
Little
know.
Street, Little Street.
the other side of that is still, that's even worse.
And that's the other thing I wanna mention is, and thank you, Trent, for saying that, so yes. Maybe I was beating around the bush a little bit, but we did get confirmation that ordinance is not, what was said was not accurate, but more importantly. You know, I always say this, and I'll say it again, we are not Lambertville, we are not Clinton, we are Flemington. And our makeup of downtown is a lot different, we have a lot of big, old, what were former single family homes that could be used in one way versus some infill, traditional kind of box retail that can be used another way. So when we do look at the DB and DB2 districts, I want to make sure that we're looking at them whole. I do not envy the subcommittee. It's not easy. What seems like an easy fix is not. So I do hear your struggles with, what you just mentioned. Yes, and we had a lot of meetings in 2023 when we were going through the other zones, so I'm not envious. But if there's any way we can help in any way, but we do need to recognize that while we're going through these changes, there are people that are suffering and kind of getting tied up in the red tape. So we need to address that as well. Sorry I went so long, but
So
important stuff.
I just wanna remind the public, as well as the council, we do have a commercial abatement program that will abate 100% of all construction done on any non-residential property for up to 5 years and freeze their taxes as if the work had not been done. You know, that is critically important for any of these businesses that are going in and changing a use, because there is no cap on what will be frozen. So, they do $1 million worth of improvements, they're gonna get their taxes frozen as if they were never done for 5 years. And they can do another $1 million the following year, and that'll be frozen for 5 years too. There is no ceiling for commercial or office uses in this municipality for the abatement program. I just also want you to know that the planning board has already taken up the resolution compliance. That is in the hands of the attorney and the planner looking at that, and they're working on, I'm sorry, the attorney and the engineer are currently working on a resolution compliance policy. It was the attorney's opinion that it did not need to be a resolution or an ordinance by the borough, but a policy from the planning board. And they also want to remind the council that it is the mayor's prerogative in this borough to, in borough forms of government, to form all committees, subcommittees, and make assignments. So I will take under consideration what you suggested, Councilwoman, but I will think about it. We can talk about it some more. Moving on, Councilwoman Fasaro.
Sure. God, there's a lot of talking tonight, but mine can't wait. I am a member of the planning board. And unfortunately, I'm finding that, that's a role in the borough in which you have to be very careful in what you say. There's a lot of legal surrounding of it, and a lot of it is perception. And so I'm going to address a perception that I know for a fact is only a perception and it's not a truth. But I'm gonna give a little history lesson first. So in 1933, the United States government faced a housing shortage. Thus, the Federal Housing Administration was established in 1934. The government's efforts were primarily designed to provide housing to white, middle class, and lower middle class families. Black Americans and other people of color were left out of the new suburban communities and pushed instead into urban housing projects. The FHA refused to insure mortgages in and or near Black neighborhoods. This came to be known as redlining by banks and mortgage providers. At the same time, the FHA was subsidizing builders who were mass producing entire subdivisions specifically for whites. The key requirement was that none of the homes be sold to Black Americans. The New Deal's FHA was basically a state-sponsored system of segregation. Creditworthy applicants were denied a loan for housing in these homes, even though the applicant may otherwise be eligible for the loan. This lending structure still exists today, and it still exists in the framework of purchasing a home, perhaps built between 1935 and 1968. The FHA's theory was that when Black Americans moved into FHA neighborhoods, the value of properties declined. This was not based in fact. It was based on a very biased theory only. In fact, when Black Americans tried to buy homes in all white neighborhoods, or in mostly white neighborhoods, property values rose because Black Americans were more willing to pay more for properties than whites were to get into those neighborhoods, simply because their housing supply was so restricted and there were fewer choices. So redlining was given birth to by the New Deal. The federal government created color-coded maps of every metropolitan area in the country. These codes were designed to indicate where it was safe to insure mortgages, where Americans who were Black lived, or anywhere where Americans who are Black lived nearby. They were colored red to indicate to appraisers that these neighborhoods were too risky to insure mortgages. That also applies to specific homes outside of these urban areas. Those maps were color-coded first by the Homeowners Loan Corp, second by the Federal Housing Administration, and finally they were adopted by the Veterans Admin. In 2023, I was finally able to visit the National World War II Museum in New Orleans. Fun fact from the tour: 1.2 million Black Americans were serving in our military at the end of World War II. Only 4,000 were enrolled in 1941. The GI Bill they were eligible for encouraged loans for newly built homes, prompting the surge of these new suburbs and an upswing in construction. The first 2 years after the war ended, 40% of mortgages issued were guaranteed by the VA. In 1956, the GI Bill of Rights ended. The Black men and women, true blue patriotic Americans who served our country at home and abroad, were denied those benefits they had earned because the FHA said so. Studies by the New York City Furman Center and the Cleveland Park in Washington, D.C. Smart Growth Organization, Columbia University, and the federal organization, the Urban Institute specifically, in their document, Preservation and Social Inclusion, Preservation's Reckoning, examining questions of exclusion and shifting towards policy inclusion. These all focus on the danger in allowing historic districts to blossom unfettered, especially for homes built from 1934 through 1968. This places additional burden on non-white homeowners to meet the restrictive requirements of maintaining a historic home. I personally live in one built in 1913, and I assure you, this is not for everyone to update, to maintain, and to restore these homes. When your highly decorated former military officer, Green Beret Delta Force father had to move his family into his newly built home in 1978 in Western New York at 11 o'clock at night, when they returned from West Germany, and you have Keep America Clean, Kill All the N-Bombs painted on your garage in red, this history matters. That was us, and that was my family. I was 5. For those residents I spoke to when I was campaigning, and those who have reached out to me post the August 27th Joint Historic Preservation Committee and Planning Board meeting, I thank you. I remain committed to not allowing the entire borough to be designated as historic while I serve on your council. I make that commitment understanding that we do have a stock of homes that were built when the FHA was running amok. Fast forward to the Flemington, New Jersey Planning Board meeting with the Historic Preservation Committee on that August 27th. A comment was made by a member of the planning board regarding the entire town could be made into a historic district a few minutes before we reached the 2-hour mark on the meeting. At this time, in the publicly available recording, you will hear these 3 phrases, again, right before the 2-hour mark. 65% national recognized historic district. We are a patchwork, but it is historic Flemington. I don't understand your point as I'm bringing this up. Then I'm not sure it matters what the house was built under, i.e. in response to my mention of FHA loans. My response to the 3rd bullet, my specific words, because it didn't impact your family. You can hear me say this specifically at the 2-hour and 54-second mark on the publicly available recording on the borough website. Again, let me repeat, the specific words were because it didn't impact your family. Under no circumstances did I ever refer or would I refer to anybody, any race, religion, creed, social class as you people. Between 3:30 p.m. and 6 p.m. on Monday, October 14th, I heard this nasty and bigoted terminology was used by me towards a member of our planning board in response to their comments. 3 different people. That never happened. It's a publicly available recording of the meeting. One more time, my response, my specific words were because it didn't impact your family. I was raised better than to use a phrase such as you people. It would have caused my mom to wash my mouth out with a drop of Palmolive on a sponge. There are racial and class connotations to its usage, and my character and who I am does not allow me to speak to anybody that way. Finally, I have never accused anyone of being racist in this borough or on this planning board. All I did was tell the truth. We all come from different backgrounds and families, and what is truth of our lived experiences is not the truth of others. And those are my comments.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Levitt.
Sure.
All right, first off, I will be attending the 99th Annual Shade Tree Conference in Atlantic City on Thursday, so that way we can receive the NJ Urban and Community Forestry Community Representative Training. And this will satisfy some of the requirements for a few grants, similar to the forestry plan. That and the forestry plan and this core training are required, so that way we can get the grants that Councilwoman Rossetti was talking about, and that was something I did want to see passed, so I'm quite excited about it as well. The free rabies vaccine clinic will be held at the firehouse from 9 AM to 10 AM on November 2nd. I have continued to work on the borough website and have been creating fillable PDF forms to be posted, so if you've ever downloaded one before and you've realized it's a scanned paper copy of something that was clearly a Word document at some point, that will never happen again. I think I've tackled all of them, and I will upload them once I have approval from Carla. On Saturday, I did attend the pumpkin decorating event at Flint Castle, and as always, that was a wonderful time. And if anybody is wondering, I decorated my pumpkin to look like Puppy Cat from the animated web series Being Puppy Cat. Photos of my work are available upon request.
Thank you so much. We're all wondering on that.
I'll show you after the meeting.
Okay.
At the last HPC meeting, they did approve one project, and that was actually tea berries. And while I haven't heard anything similar to what the mayor was talking about with that, they were in and out in about 15 minutes. So no problems at the HPC. On November 2nd, the HPC is hosting a historic walking tour presented by local architect Chris Bacall. I do not have the full registration details yet, but sorry, it is on November 2nd.
What time?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. I appreciate you asking that.
So, Puppy Castle's November 2nd, Rabies Clinic November 2nd, Walking Tours November 2nd.
Yes, I will be posting a news item on the borough website as soon as that information is given to me, which you'll hopefully get at tomorrow's night's HPC meeting.
Okay.
And I'm sure they will post it on the HPC Facebook page as well. And lastly, I just want to make one last comment about zoning. To clarify, what I do want to get rid of is the SIC codes. I think they are exceedingly restrictive. And for example, I've heard people that maybe wanted to open something like an arcade on Main Street, which I think we all agree would be pretty cool if they did. Unfortunately, as it stands right now, if he wanted to do that, that is not a permitted use on Main Street. So he would have to potentially go to the planning board and try and get a D variance or a use variance, and, you know, maybe versus spending $20,000 on a planning board hearing to get a maybe. Which I don't think is really conducive to what we want to do here in the borough. That being said, like I mentioned, Town of Clinton, as far as I can tell, does not have 100% non-retail, and their ordinance does allow for offices on Main Street. I'm not exactly interested in getting rid of all office uses on Main Street. I think it should be as open as possible. And honestly, I think this is one of the things where the free market honestly decides what's best. And allowing small businesses to compete by, you know, paying different rents is probably the best way to allocate that portion of land on Main Street. I don't think we can possibly anticipate or plan every single potential use or what might work or what might not work in this specific instance, and allowing them to just hash it out naturally is probably what's best for the borough. Other than that, I wish Carla luck with the minutes. That's everything I have.
Thank you. Councilman Parker.
Yeah, that was well put, French. So, you know, I've been listening to everyone. I was gonna do a report. I've been listening to everyone, and it's a lot, right? Yeah, so what I will say is this, I'll say from listening to everyone, I've actually walked the streets over the last couple, you know, definitely like last week, but over the last couple of weeks here and there, I've been walking the streets. I've also sat in several meetings, and one was the FCP meeting, which was pretty, you know, I mean, our business owners are having some issues, right? And we have to address those issues. I understand the zoning, I understand the zoning was done a while ago, but here's the thing. What happened last year is not necessarily effective this year, right? And so I lead on the premise of is if good is better, better ain't necessarily good enough, right? And so you've got to keep stacking, and you've got to keep looking, and you got to keep examining, and you have to keep looking, you have to get more people involved. And you've got to look, it's about pivoting. And I say this constantly, that I don't understand why pivoting is so difficult here. And it is, it's just difficult here. No one wants to pivot. And everybody has their silos. And I will say, from my standpoint of being on several different committees, I actually get to see how things are broken. I see what works and I see what things are broken. And it kind of goes back to what Susan was saying, because I do agree with this. And that is that there's not that link of communication between each one of those entities to say, if you do this, this is what's going to affect me. If this affects me, this is how this is going to affect that person. I said this last year, and I said, there are chains that are just broken. Doesn't make it bad or horrible, and you're not pointing at people. It's just saying, we've grown as a borough. We've changed how we want to do things, and therefore, there's some processes that did not change when we changed. So it also goes back to what Jeremy said. Yes, we want business and we want this to happen, we want that to happen, if it's consistent with our values. And therein lies the issue, if it's consistent with our values. And I keep hearing that throughout the community. I also think that if you just look at today, I subscribe to this as well. 'Tis a fool who looks at tomorrow trying to capture yesterday, because it's never going to happen. You're never going to recapture yesterday. What you can do is honor yesterday, but you can't recapture it. And the more you try to recapture it, the more life just keeps going by. It just keeps going by because everybody else is just going to keep moving, right? And so I think what we have to do as a council, I think what we have to do as a town, I think we have to stop. I think you just have to stop for a second. And I think you have to reevaluate, what are we really, really looking to do? And what does that mean? And what is the impact of that? I don't like hearing business owners saying that I feel like I'm being pushed out, or that I want to come in, but I have to do, but this zoning does not allow me to do this, and this doesn't allow me to do that. That's what I mean by a pivot, right? I do think that there are some instances where everything is not black and white. There's so much gray. And I understand that there's a subcommittee that's looking at things in the whole bit. But here's my other question. Has anyone actually got together with the landlords and said, here's what our vision is, here's what our values are. Now we need you to understand this is the perimeter. How can you work with this? Can you work with this? What do you see? Because obviously there's some people are going to drop off, right? But there are other people that may come in. But here's the other part of this. The businesses that you have here today, are struggling to stay here. So we can't make it more difficult. We've got to make it a little bit easier. And I do agree with Jeremy. We need to look at fees. We need to look at maybe first floor is going to be done. We need to, as Trent said, it depends on, when I look at first floor retail, I look at what's the size, right? Because not every size in those first floors, a retail store can go in, or a retail establishment can go in. So maybe that should be zoned for offices. And I just think it's not enough peeling the onion back. I really do. And I don't think there's enough of the professionals, such as the police department, getting involved, having a say so, or I know DPW definitely has a say so, but there's other departments that need to have a say so. And I think they need to come forward and say, this is how it impacts us in a whole bit, because when it gets to council, it should be a slam dunk. It shouldn't be like we're going back and forth and back and forth. It should be a slam dunk because we've heard everybody. That, I will say that, and I'm going to end with, the newsletter, the intention of the newsletter was to inform everybody this is newsletter was nothing like I had anticipated that would happen, and it's partly my fault and partly because I just can't get content. So here's where I think the newsletter needs to be for right now. I think everything we talked about tonight, I think zoning, I think, the awards that we've gotten, anything like that, we need to talk about. We need to let people know what's going on, but we also need to let them know what's going on with redevelopment, because that's a huge, huge concern. Huge concern. I cannot tell you how many people are asking, when is the hotel gonna be done? I mean, they're like fed up with it, right? They also wanna know what other redevelopment, like, where are we with things? We don't have to be specific, but we should let them know how it's progressing. We owe this town that. We do owe them that. As all of us are sitting up here, that is what we were hired to do, and that's what we should do. So, here's my proposal to everyone. I would like to put the newsletter out. I wanted to put it out this week, but obviously I didn't get any content. But I do want to put it out within the next 2 weeks. I want it to be out in October, and I'd like another one to come out at the end of November. So I am asking every single person up here to please get with your committees and send me something within the next week. And I do not have the time to chase you down. I don't have the time. I have a life like you have a life. So that's what I'm asking. I'm asking each of you to commit. We've sat up here and talked about what we want to do and how we're going to do it. So I'm asking you guys to commit to the newsletter. Finally, I will say this, and that is, you know, we talked about what this position up here means. This is a tough position. It really is very difficult. It's not, the more I say that, the more I do enjoy it. I love what I'm doing. I love servicing the public. I love listening to the public. But I really want to make sure we're solving problems and not just talking about them and adding to them. So with that, I thank you and God bless us all.
All right, well, I'm happy to give an update on redevelopment and where the other sites are. Everybody can see where the new hotel is. The Liberty Village came to the planning board last week for their compliance hearing. And absolutely nobody from the public showed up for their hearing or tuned in to Zoom to watch it. So there's that for interest in Liberty Village. I guess they'll show up hopefully for the public hearings. Which
I don't
are,
think people are not showing up because they don't want to, Mayor. I think they're not showing up because this time of the year, you have kids that are in after school activities and they're running. I just see my neighbors who are running around every single day through until like late dinner time to get their kids in and out.
okay, let me finish. So hopefully they're gonna be
Please.
coming in probably in November to start their hearings. I think it's the 22nd, thank you. The 22nd of November is when their hearings are gonna start. The 200-foot notices will all be going out to the neighborhoods. And that's where they are. The other two sites, the two Agway sites, are currently under redesign because of the DEP and stormwater rule changes. It's got nothing to do with the council, or myself or anybody else. You know, and I have periodically heard from both of them. It has been crickets for a while, and you know, that's where that is. I'm gonna remind the council that you have the right to pull status as redevelopers. If you are not happy with how things are not progressing, we can always talk about that and get some advice from our either our redevelopment attorney or our municipal attorney, but nothing has happened now in years. So and it is, like I said, it is back in all their courts because of the DEP's stormwater rule changes. So because they chose to redevelop in floodplain on a creek. So that's where those are. So we're up to public. I didn't miss anybody on the council, right? No. We're up to public comment session number 1. Any member from the public wishing to address the council need to come up to the front, have a seat, speak in the microphone. We need your name and your address for the record.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Aileen Moore-Hirsch. I live on 71 Mine Street.
71 Mine. Can you spell your last name?
It's WOLFE, and then there's a space, GOLDHIRSH.
Thank you.
And I'm here because of traffic concerns. It's been probably about 4 weeks. I don't know the exact date. My son was walking my dog while I was away, and my son got missed by the car by maybe just inches, but my dog was hit. She's okay, but it wasn't the first time we've had a close call like that. And just last night, I was almost hit twice, once when I was walking up to Mine Street to Main, crossing over Park, and then also when I was walking my dog, I walk her often at night at Stangle because it's well lit. And crossing over there, at the corner of Mine and Academy, I was in halfway through there and someone just kept going. So I had to stop in order not to get hit. So, and apparently it's a concern with a lot of people, that and speeding, and I printed out a list of concerns. Most of them have to do with people not stopping at the crosswalk, people with their electric bikes not stopping for signs, like seem to be oblivious that they're supposed to be following the same rules as cars. People walking out when there is not a crosswalk and just walking between cars and not paying attention. The lack of sidewalks for the high school students and intermediate school students where it ends. That was one of the last ones, it seems. I think they talked about. Where is it? New Jersey Avenue and Elwood, I guess the sidewalk just ends, and then there's no safe sidewalk for the students to travel. So I had put out a note, and these were a lot of the concerns. I have 5 copies. I didn't know how many were on the board. I should have looked that up. But those were the main concerns, the sidewalks. Some of the suggestions were pedestrian signs, like there's nothing on Mine Street to let you know that there's a crosswalk coming up. There actually is one sign, but it's nowhere close to the crosswalk. So as you get closer, there's nothing to indicate that you're supposed to be stopping other than the lines going across, and people seem to think it's optional. I can't tell you how many times I've been in the middle and people just keep going. Or I have to stand there for minutes after minute after minute to get someone to stop. There were suggestions like adding signs, speed bumps. I know that's not popular because of snow plows and other things. You know, the way you have the painting on Park Avenue where it says stop ahead, adding maybe that to Mine Street. And perhaps on some of the areas, maybe 3-way stop signs, because Park Avenue and Mine seems to be one of the biggest ones. I've personally witnessed quite a few close calls there, because I walk a lot with my dog and I walk to most things in the town. So I would really like to see some more safety measures, and I've written grants before. I know you usually use professional grant makers or grant writers, but I would be happy to volunteer my time for anything. As I'm retired.
That's so kind of you.
I've got lots of free time as I'm a retired teacher.
That's so kind of you. So, I will tell you that Mine Street has been a conversation up here off and on for the last year. The chief has had more guys out giving tickets, and they've also been surveying those electric signs that you see with the speed, recording it. They've been surveying the speeding. We are discussing what to do. Chief and I actually talked today, as a weird coincidence, about a 3-way stop sign at Park and Mine. It is, you know, there aren't a lot of cross streets on Mine Street to be able to make, like, even, you know, like Academy and Dewey, they don't go anywhere except out to Mine Street. So it's kind of hard to just suddenly, they don't have a lot of traffic either, like Park. I mean, totally agree with you. Park Avenue and that Mine intersection is dangerous, and the speeding is very bad on Mine Street, according to the chief's surveys. He is trying to get more guys out. We are hiring another officer this fall, hoping to get, you know, more feet on the street giving tickets to slow down the traffic.
Even that electric sign that you put out sometimes for the yard sale, just putting that out as a reminder every so often that to stop at pedestrian walks might be a great idea.
But it's also really important, you know, it's that see something, say something. If you see speeders, get their license plate numbers down, or if somebody is, you know, not stopping, you gotta call, people have to call cops, you gotta call the police. You know, I mean, I don't read Facebook, so if something's going on, unless somebody tells me, you know, gotta call the police. I mean, you and I corresponded, I think, right?
Yes.
What has happened with the dog, and, you know, I mean, it's so important that people get to the police as soon as possible, because otherwise it's cold news, you know, and there's little they can do other than having the complainant sign a complaint versus them doing an investigation and going after somebody.
So I will tell you this, Chief and I have met about this, and we met as early as yesterday, right?
Yeah.
And I will tell you that he does have people out there, we just talked about it a
Yeah, I've
minute
seen
ago. So everything's a process, right? And so I think when they see more cops out, more policemen out patrolling that area, that may help. I think your tickets are help. The sign, the thing that you're talking about is at the other end.
Mhm.
And maybe it needs to come up to this end by Stangle a little bit so that people will know that's happening, because I am going to just assume, I don't know that that's true, so let me put it up. But I think it's a lot of people who are just passing through.
Yes. they're in the circle.
Flemington to avoid the circle, and so
Yeah.
therefore they just see it as a raceway.
Mhm.
And the chief has actually, and his patrolmen have actually done a really, yeoman's job at actually trying to get under that. So if you can just give him some time to do that, but I do agree, if you're starting to see more of that, pick up the phone and call the chief and let him know that it's happening, that it's still happening, or whatever the case may
But the
be.
pedestrian crossing signs, just even the ones that aren't flashing, just the ones
Yeah.
that let you know ahead of
Yeah.
time.
No, I agree with that. I do think
It's
that there should be
required by
signage.
law, actually, that you're supposed to have them a certain amount of feet before the crossing to let people know that there is a pedestrian.
I agree,
crossing.
I do agree with you, their signage is probably something that can help the situation. I don't know that it will solve the situation,
No.
but I think it will help the
The
situation.
speeding is a big problem, the speeding, I mean, it is a very broad road, right? We only have parking on one side of the street, which gives an illusion, that it's, and it just invites speeders, and, you know, when the chief gave tickets out, the last ticket blitz a couple of weeks ago, when it was a lot. Nobody was from Flemington Borough, none of them were from Flemington, they were from Pennsylvania, and a lot from Raritan Township and other municipalities in Hunterdon, but none of the speeders were from Flemington.
I will leave, this is a
Sure,
list of
please.
different concerns
Give
and.
us the chief, please, if you don't mind. Yeah.
Mayor.
One, two, three.
Probably we have that stand in and
Sorry,
you wanna go?
I got one arm.
I mean,
I
I
get
get
your
sorry
papers
about
still.
that. We get, you know,
I wanna.
like our traffic engineer or regular engineer, something to actually investigate, for example, on my street. You know, some cheap, low cost ways, I mean, nothing's low cost, but you know.
So we have a parking committee meeting coming up, so
That's
Jerry and I, when we talked today about the three-way stop. Jerry pretty much quickly blessed it, but we really need our engineer to wait, our traffic engineer.
No, I mean, like,
So
you
we
know,
can
like,
certainly-
like, parking stuff, like, they can't be, you can't just put a police officer there 24/7. They got
That's
other
why-
places that are speeding, they got a lot of other, crimes to investigate and things to respond to.
You know, I'm very supportive of anything that's signage, that's bright, that shows people where they're supposed to walk, or maybe ways to do it, because that's right. I'm very anxious to make this the place where sidewalks don't end, so I may speak to you offline.
Sure, some of the difficulties with, I believe she's, speaking of the pedestrian signs that are in the middle of the roadway. That's a tough intersection, the volume of traffic, the size of the vehicles, we would be losing them left.
You're talking about
I'm
Park
talking
Avenue.
about the ones to the side of the road.
Yeah, those are, the DPW puts those up and they are in accordance with, traffic standards. So, you know, everything's pretty much on point with where they belong and where they can be. Because of, you gotta make sure sight is an issue, that they can't be, you know, there's certain heights, there's certain requirements that, Mike Campion does excellent with. But I'll confirm with him that those signs are out and about. Sure, there's always some more signs and locations to put. The speeds on Mine Street, you know, when we're out there, we have made an impact. I think, next month, I have, Commissioner Parker, I'll have the, traffic speed study again for him.
Yeah.
And he can, elaborate more once we collect the data.
Yeah.
But the main thing is Facebook is not the appropriate source to make those
Yeah.
reports. We don't
Exactly.
monitor Facebook for that. if you call us when it happens.
I was away, my son was. But yeah.
Why didn't your son, okay, why didn't your son call?
He, the dog was really, upset because one of the bystanders got out of his car and was kicking the car of the person that hit her and screaming at her, and so she was shaking all over, so he just wanted to get her home.
Yeah, and that's.
So
also-
the person who's kicking the car, instead of calling 911, decided to kick a car.
But I have to say, I
Get it.
I was the person that did see it, and I'm not on Facebook all the time, and just now I happened to see that, and thank you for reaching out to the mayor. And reaching out to the police, because that's the only way we can get change. Facebook doesn't give us a record.
And that's why I reached out on Facebook to get someone who witnessed it, and I did actually, and I brought that over.
And my main point of that is to explain one little, some details. A police officer can't take a report if they didn't witness. So if you witness somebody, not stopping for a crosswalk, you by all means call us, report it. And the good thing is that you have the same right to go sign a complaint on that driver for that violation. So, what you'll do is, you'll witness it, grab the license plate. It's always great to get a description of the driver. Come to the police station when it happens, and file that report, and then we'll refer you over to the municipal court and you can sign the complaint. It's the same level of a complaint as an officer issuing, it just takes a little bit longer process.
That's good to know. I'm glad you said that the officer can't just come and and do anything without witnessing.
We can
it.
speak with
Yeah,
both parties.
yeah.
A lot of times, these incidents, traffic incidents, aggressive drivers are heat of the moment situations where after a while people lose the enthusiasm or the desire to follow through with the complaint.
Right.
We also find, sometimes people's perception is not exactly
Reality.
on point,
Yeah.
so we can't file that complaint.
Yeah.
But, if you like, I can be in contact, maybe we can meet it up, or I'll have an officer stop by and we can chat about more issues for you.
Okay.
So we'll follow up and, any other questions? We're good?
You-
I
you could-
don't take up too much time.
Thanks, Jerry.
No, but we'll talk to our traffic engineer,
Yeah.
what he might globally.
This week, right? This
Yeah.
Friday?
Friday.
This Friday.
Yeah.
If you guys could ask me specific, I'm very curious what the cost of a rectangular rapid flashing beacon would be. I gotta know.
Rectangular, can you send me?
I'll send you an
Send me
email.
an email?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Oh, never
Not
mind.
just for the.
That's it, thanks, Jerry.
Thursday, we'll be at Sip Control. We'll have a couple officers out there eating ice cream and hanging out with people, so by all means stop. Little plug.
Thank you.
Takes what I can.
I just wanna say there's definitely a broken window theory about traffic calming and vacancies. So I remember when 39 Mine was at 39 Mine and not on Stangle Road, which is confusing.
Robin, you need to get your name and.
Robin Lapidus, Executive Director of the Flemington Improvement District, thank you. And when oh my God, the appliance store was functioning. And the owner was very often out in front getting deliveries, people were parking, people were standing in front of the shops talking. 39 Mine had a beeline of young women and their moms shopping. That slows traffic down. And since those two stores have been vacant, one is gonna be a development project that's gonna be vacant for a long time. The other has had people who've tried to rent it. And because of a interpretation on whether or not they can have art classes, they can't, we've lost like 3 tenants for this one little space. So, everything is interrelated. When you have functioning businesses, you have calmer traffic because there's people getting in and out of cars, there's people walking in front, there's something to look at when you're driving by, and drivers who create cut-throughs don't drive on those streets because they get slowed down. And the more you slow people down, the better it is for business. the more business you have, the more slow down the cars get. You know, I was in the gift horse, right about rush hour, and I couldn't even concentrate on what we were saying, cause the cars were flying by so fast, and I'm so ADHD, it made me crazy, and I was like, how do you know, but these, whether they were really going faster than the speed limit or not, it felt very chaotic. It doesn't, you know, and the gift horse smells like heaven. It's a beautiful store. It's charming and relaxing, like the traffic is very chaotic, which is not good for business or for pedestrians or for having a quaint, vibrant town. So, you know, having more business will definitely help slow down the traffic, and slowing down the traffic will probably help us get more businesses. And so will the conversations we've had about zoning tonight be very helpful. I think T-Berry's is a really good example of, if we want restaurants or cafes, how many places can have a restaurant? How many landlords are going to spend the exorbitant amount of money needed for today's sprinkler systems, venting, etc. You know, and maybe we incent people who use electric ovens or have less, or use less water. I mean, there's lots of ways to incent change, but I think a realistic inventory of our assets, many of which are historical, you know, and many of which have become very different things over the years, but how viable are our buildings for the retail uses we most desire? And how do we get there is really the question, and that's all we want, is to have a little time to talk to our landlords about, you know, because the longer you wait, the more difficult it is to get a new tenant. You know, the restaurant at Turntable Junction has everybody who's wanted to open a restaurant has gone in there. Has so many issues, it's not viable. Yep, if a very committed family like our friends at Viva Mexico didn't take that property and it continued to sit there for 10 years, you know, the whole building probably would have needed to be demolished. So I think it's about, how do we marry our goals with incentives, with where can stuff realistically go and make it work. And find every grant. I mean, I love that the mayor and I had a conversation, and I said, well, where are the incentives for these people who you know, have owned buildings but need to make extremely expensive changes to get retail? And there was an incentive that hadn't been talked about for many years. You know, and like the last people who took advantage of that incentive are now getting higher tax bills than they did the 5-year mark on the last people who used it.
2018.
Yeah.
So I
Okay.
also think, Robin, this is a part of the marketing strategy, right?
Yep.
With the marketing company, is that those types of things need to be discussed. I do think that in terms of restaurants, I think it's insurmountable because of what they have to do in order to change something into something. And that's why we lost the Jamaican restaurant, because they just couldn't afford to do what they needed to do in order to stay here, right? So I think it's complex. I don't think we're gonna solve it tonight or whatever the case may be, but I do think it's a conversation between the landlords that we've never engaged in, and I think that has to happen. And again, with us as a council coming back and taking a very hard look at zoning and figuring out what is reasonable and what will attract people. And maybe it won't be restaurants, right? Maybe it's just gonna be something else, or maybe it's just a sandwich shop or whatever. I'm just throwing it out, right? Based upon what they're being asked to do, but no one's going to come in and turn a place around and spend millions of dollars. And I have friends in very high-end restaurant business. I know what it takes to do that. No one's gonna do that without a guarantee knowing that they're gonna have foot traffic. They're just not gonna do it. So I mean, we just have to be reasonable. Thank you, Robin.
Agreed, and just really quickly, we have a lot of events, so we have, on Thursday, we have this incredible program with Roxy Ballet, they are a professional ballet company. They're doing a full Hispanic Heritage Month, they're doing 6 ballets, 6 different, totally different repertory ballet programs. One of them is a dance about Frida Kahlo. It's awesome. It's inside Stangl, so we're weatherproof and I really hope people come. You can bring children. They're fine with children. They're fine with people coming in and
Is this free to
leaving.
the public?
It's free.
Which
And
one?
it's sponsored by the Hunterdon County Cultural and Heritage Commission. This is a program called Dancing on the Green that's been done at Old York Winery out in the fields, and they wanted to do it on the grass on Stangl, and then it got a little cold and a little dark, and we decided that we would put it inside Stangl, and it's gonna be wonderful.
What time is the event?
So it starts, the first dance starts at 6 o'clock, and there's like
Is
5.
this Thursday?
This is this Thursday, so it's a special event at the Sip and Stroll. Then the following Friday, we have the Witch Walk and the Moon Market on Stangl Road. We are closing a portion of Stangl Road right in front of the brewery so that it's a little brighter and a little more festive to have everything in that one area. But really, the Witch Walk is a strange Flemington tradition of new. And we have come up with an event that people really love. It's really fun. It's for everyone of all ages, and I hope everyone comes because it's really, what's that?
Isn't it on the 19th?
That is on the 25th. Thank you. The 26th, we're using Court Street Park for the first time. We are decorating for Halloween in hopes that in the future, we can actually have like a pumpkin festival where we take advantage of the 1,600 farms that surround us and get in on some of this pumpkin carving and decorating activities. And then have a place that can be ready for the, this year, we're doing a movie on Saturday night. We're showing Halloween Town, which bears some similarities to the borough. It does, I must say. And we're also having the kids' annual Halloween costume contest in the park.
On Sunday.
On Sunday,
The
yes, from 2 to 5, the 27th.
Right. Robin, go back to the, is there a ghost walk as well?
No,
It's just the witch.
it's the Witch Walk.
The ghost-
Basically, it's really a misnomer because it should be called the Witch Dance because nobody's walking, we're dancing. We're dancing.
Everybody dressed like a
We
witch too?
teach, there is a German witch dance called the Hazelbrunt something that people do. They do it in Frenchtown, they do it in other towns. And we teach everybody how to do it. And we do it, and it's really
For
fun.
a couple of years.
Yeah,
It's like the dance in like Outlander, where they're all like.
oh yeah, it's that dance. It's kind of historical. Come on down. It's really fun. We have a lot of fun and a lot of creativity, and it's really
Can I
good.
get you to wrap this up, Robin?
Oh,
It's
yes.
already 8:30, we
So
have to get on
then
to the agenda.
we're having our second First Friday event on Main Street on November 1st. And the theme of that, because November 1st is the Day of the Dead and, you know, a Mexican tradition, we are going to have a craft, some food sampling and some other things. So we just have a full complement of fall events coming up. And that's it. Thank you.
Can I add?
Sure.
There are some local borough residents that are members, young ladies that are members of that Roxy building. It'd be really lovely for us
Yes.
to support them.
It's wonderful. Please come. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You.
Anybody else from the public? I need your name and your address.
Carolyn Cooperwich, spelled CUPERWICH.
Wait, can you do that one more time?
Okay, Carolyn Cooperwich, CUPERWICH. My maiden name is Thomas, it was a lot easier.
Your first name's Karen?
Carolyn,
Oh, Carolyn, okay.
yes, 57 Brown Street in Flemington Borough.
You wrote to me.
You were, was your house open? For the open house?
Yes.
Yes, I was.
I remember you.
Yes, and I sent you an email yesterday, so.
Yeah, you sent me in the council president.
Yes, yes, so same, so recapping, so we bought our house at 57 Brown Street on July 31st of 2023, so just over a year ago. At the time, the title company, so we met, got approved for a mortgage, title company came in and our taxes were estimated at $3,715. And then we worked that out, put money into escrow for the year for the mortgage company to pay it. And in October 2023, so the title company expected $3,715 for the year. And when we got our first bill for the first quarter, it was $4,000. So what ended up happening is that our escrow account was immediately empty, and that we 1 year later, so in July of 2024, now needed to reimburse the mortgage company $11,000 in taxes that we didn't know when we bought the house that we would have to pay, and also a 25% increase to account for the taxes that we now know we have to pay. Or we could spread out the $11,000 over the next 12 months, in which case our monthly payment goes up 50% for the next 12 months for last year's taxes plus this year's taxes. And that's a lot. So I went through a bit of a nightmarish effort to try and get an explanation of how this occurred and where these numbers come from. And eventually ended up at the county tax assessor, who confirmed that it was not a bookkeeping error, as I thought it might be, but rather it's a problem that most new homeowners are having because of the housing market being so high that as soon as you purchase a property, as far as the tax assessor is concerned, when I sign my name on my mortgage, I'm saying, yes, this is the value that this house should be assessed at, even though, obviously no one wants to buy a house in this current economy because it's not easy. So immediately, basically overnight when I purchased my house, my taxes more than tripled from what I had anticipated when I bought it. So now I'm stuck sort of like, I'm not moving my son again through districts. So now I'm stuck trying to find basically a part-time job to pay for my taxes, which is sort of two problems. So one is, there's two things that upset me about this. One is that if I had known at closing what the actual numbers were, that may have affected my decision at that time. But at this point, I've owned the house already, I've moved my son, and I'm gonna make this work one way or another. And so that's, one problem is the transparency that I feel should have been there at the beginning. And the county tax assessor also pointed out that that Flemington Borough does annual reassessments. Some towns do them more spread apart, so we get affected more quickly. And in trying to make me feel better, said that there are other people whose taxes jump significantly after they've had their house for 10 or 15 years. And then they find out that they can't afford their taxes and they lose their house. And I didn't actually feel better after that. So I have a few ideas. I know absolutely nothing about borough rules and so forth. I'm a first-time homeowner, so I'm still figuring this out. But I see this as a problem that I'm sure a lot of other people are facing along with me. And I think that there are hopefully some ways that we can address it so that I overheard mention of businesses having a very long amount of time before they had to pay the taxes on their improvements, and I understand that that's with a different.
We have that with homeowners too.
Do that
I
too.
found out about it after we.
So
tell me about it.
but let me first.
Go ahead,
just a matter
I'll
of that.
respond to
So we didn't make any home improvements except for repairs after we bought it, so.
the prior owner
But the
did,
prior owner did.
and they
right.
could have filed, and the rebate, it stays with the land, so.
Okay,
they screwed
so if they didn't file,
They didn't file.
then there's nothing I can do.
Okay, so there's that. I was so close.
Well, I shouldn't say that, you should talk to the assessor,
Right, which one? Because I've.
Ed
And
Kerwin
Okay,
is the
so,
assessor.
okay. I had, so when so with so there were some improvements made by the previous owner prior to selling. Which according to the Borough Assessment Office is why my property price tripled.
Absolutely.
But the fact of the matter is that so for example, my land is specified as having been previously worth something like $80,000. And the following year was valued at $150,000 for the land, not the house, which no one made any changes to. So even though, yes, there were improvements, they were not $200,000 worth of improvements. There were some improvements, and then there was the market that caused the vast majority of the price increase. And so it seems to be a common but significant problem that as the direct result of the market changing, my taxes became unaffordable. And there needs to be some way to balance that perhaps a limit, some states, I've been trying to Google this the best I can, have tried to put limits on how much a property can increase in value over
The
a
state of New
year.
Jersey does not do
And
that.
not have one. But even the states that have one, it's still complicated because it's the boroughs that do the taxes, they're the towns or parishes or what have you that do the tax assessing. So I'd like to sort of brainstorm with you, if we could impose some sort of, like, in my case, less than 300% would have helped me in my tax assessment value from before I bought the house to the following quarter. So, if we put 100% limit.
So the municipal governments in the state of New Jersey, I can't speak of any other state, must be governed by what the state allows us to do, and the state does not allow us to do that.
So they don't allow you to, so
We
not only do
have
they not
that, the power to change people's taxes or give abatements or freeze them rests with the state legislature. We have no power to do that. So senior tax freezes, veterans tax freezes,
Or the state tax court.
or the state tax court, right? All of those things rest, but to change the law rests with the legislature. We have zero power to do anything. I hear this all the time about, something for the seniors, whatever. There's a uniform tax code in the state, and the property tax laws are governed by the legislature.
One thing that I heard about other towns within New Jersey is that some of them do not tax at 100%, or that, so whatever your property is assessed at, that in Flemington Borough, we tax at 100%, whereas other boroughs might tax at 80% of your property value.
They're breaking the law. They're breaking the law. State law says we're supposed to be doing reassessments every year and taxing it 100%. So municipalities that aren't doing it are breaking the law.
We had, first of all, congratulations on all, well, and it sounds like you made a good investment, but that being said, we had a long, Ed came earlier this year, and he was, I highly recommend all residents come that night, because he comes every year. Kind of explains to everybody how assessments work, and one of the things that was said that I was a little confused about, I thought Ed had said to us earlier this year that the borough is broken up into basically every 5 years, so
To
to
do
get
the full, to go into the house,
full
to
assessment.
look at
Okay.
every room.
That's
Yeah.
what you were gonna ask as well.
But when a house
Yeah.
sells, he's got a real cost, right, a real value.
So then it
So I
automatically
gotta
happens
ask
then
you,
too?
I've gotta ask you, cause I got your email, I took it to heart, I sent it to Ed. I said, I wanna know what the story is on this property. He told me that they always send out, like most real estate agents, send out an Oprah request to know exactly what the real taxes are gonna be. Your real estate agent did not do that.
We bought our house in 30 days. So
Okay,
that may have
cause
been-
that would have told you right then and there, Ed would have worked those numbers and told you something much closer than whatever number you were told. It might have been 10,000, it might have been 9, he might have told you 12, but he would have given you a much closer estimate, or he would have given you an exact number based on the property, what you were actually buying it for. So there's that, that is the method for new homeowners to know what they're walking into. They respond to every Oprah, Oprah's coming here constantly, by new property, because not just homeowners, I mean, it's business owners too, to know what cause as soon as you buy a house, the people who you bought it from, I think, paid half of what you paid for it.
Less.
And then less than half, and they did a lot of work. And so it all caught up when you bought it, and that Oprah request would have given you a much better idea of what, I mean, it would have given you probably, if he knew you were paying, I don't remember what you said, $450 or $435 or whatever it was, he would have worked those numbers for you. And so I think the land value also, I mean, there's been a lot of property inflation and value in this town. Properties have flipped very quickly. There's bidding wars all the time. I don't know.
We did that.
You gotta do a bidding
40,000
war?
over.
Okay, so
Well, I wouldn't say it was a bidding war. We had to bid. We lost 2 houses that we couldn't get.
you
So we had
really
to
should,
bid.
so
Not
my
just this
suggestion
house,
to you is you really should bring him out, ask him, and we'll come to your house. You should bring him out, talk to him, so the abatement program allows up to $50,000 worth of improvements. I think you probably had a lot more if it doubled in price. No?
I would say that probably around 50,000.
If there's any before pictures,
Mhm.
because I know the listing would have had the after pictures.
Yeah.
So if he may be, I don't know if he can go backwards under our ordinance or not.
Okay.
The state allows us to do this, so we have an ordinance that memorializes what the state allows. So I don't know if the state allows us to go backwards, but that's worth a shot, let him look at it, see, get some pictures out. It's also worth a shot if he knows that you were in some kind of, price inflation. That may help you, I mean, I don't know how much it's gonna significantly help, but if you can get the abatement of 50, and if you overpaid, like you got into a bidding where we paid 40,000 over, and he'll look at it and he knows whether this house is worth whatever, but that's already, 1/4 off your taxes right there, right? So, and then, you can always put in for a tax appeal, but you should just bring him out. Call Ed Kerwin, our tax assessor, and have him do a home visit.
We exchanged some voicemails. We're sort of in the process of that.
Yeah, good, because that's the best thing. There's really nothing we can do for you, because the taxes are the taxes, and you can do a tax appeal, by April. But what you're telling me, it sounds like, and there's nothing we can do about your taxes, abating them or
Right.
anything, because the state doesn't allow us to.
Mhm.
So, but Ed has been doing this for years. I mean, since God made dirt, he knows, and he's a tax assessor for I don't even know how many towns. So he knows what the values are, and he really is a very kind person, and he will do everything he can to try to figure this out with you.
Okay.
So I mean, that's your best, but that Oprah request is, that is the method right there to
They should have.
protect everybody who's buying a home, to know what the real taxes are gonna be.
And now Carla's gonna run and scream out the door, because we're the one who has to do all the overrequests.
Well, because
Well, you just send them right over.
they were, they were also literally fixing up the property up until the day that we bought it, so I don't know how
Wow.
up to date.
Wow.
They actually left things undone that we had to hold onto money in escrow because there were still things that they hadn't finished by the time we moved in.
It's a beautiful
So-
little house.
It
really is. It's a beautiful
I like,
house.
well, it is, but Ed's comment on the phone was that it was like new, and I said, then you haven't seen where the water comes in through the roof.
And that's why
Because
you need
it's-
to have them come out,
Yeah. So.
and remember that if you do work to fix that roof, you get up to $50,000 in tax freeze,
Right, all right,
for 5 years.
thank you.
I'm so sorry. I wish we could do more for you,
Welcome, thank you.
but, I really wish we could do more for you, but the law is so tight on this, but Ed is your best bet.
I'll
So,
find out when Trenton's meeting, and I'll be down there.
there you go, there you go.
Good for you.
Okay, anybody else for the public? Yes, sir. Just need your name and your address.
Sure. It's Brian, Brian, Beckenbaugh, Beckenbaugh. and 22 Benell Street. Sorry, I'm getting here late, so you may have covered a lot of this already. One of the topics that was like pedestrian safety improvement.
We were talking about Mine Street specifically.
Okay.
For now.
Okay, great.
Police is here.
Okay, great. I guess with Mine Street, one thought is that most people do obey the speed limit, but the ones that don't really don't. You know, and I'm wondering if you know, like a traffic, you know, a bump.
So let me catch you up.
Yeah.
On what you missed.
Okay, thanks.
Let me catch you up with what you missed. So the police department has been monitoring speeds. That little sign is there recording, so
Yeah.
we are very aware about the rate of speed and how much speeding. We're gonna get another report next month on the amount of speeding that's happening on mine. They've also had the police out there doing some ticket blitzing on speeders, none of which are from Flemington, they're all from elsewhere. We kind of knew that, right? And we are gonna be talking to our traffic engineer to look at a global calming plan for Mine Street. Possibly a three-way stop at Park and Mine, maybe some other two-way stops at, you know, Dewey, or three-way stops at Dewey and Academy, whatever. But we're gonna ask him to take a big look at it to see what we can do for traffic calming. Our DPW does not want speed bumps. It's very hard to plow, it's really rough on plows, and the people who live across from the speed bump will
Right.
hear boom, 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 boom all night long, right? You know, so, but we have a meeting with the traffic engineer Friday. So
Okay.
we'll be bringing this up to him.
Okay. And Benell does have a number of like, you know, curb bump outs and things like that.
And you also have parking on both sides of the street, which
Right.
also slows traffic down. 'cause it
Right,
feels
and
congested.
you know, I have dogs, so we walk up and down the street a lot, you know, and I notice it's the areas where there are fewer cars parked in the street that have the most speeding. You know, so it's like, let's get more people parking on the street and slow things down. So there's that, I guess, people cut through the school parking lot quite a lot.
Do they speed through the school parking lot?
Yeah, between Benell and
Oh,
the
no,
street park.
everybody uses it to cut through.
Yeah, and that's fine, I mean, I can choose sometimes. And it has a 5-mile-an-hour speed limit, but sometimes you see cars coming through quite a bit faster.
Well, no, they should not be speeding,
Right.
but, right.
So again, I don't know what to do about that, but I just wanted to point that as a concern.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention, because maybe the chief can stick a card.
Because we live immediately across from the exit of that parking lot, you know, that kind of auxiliary parking lot onto Benell, so we see, you know,
You see it all.
we see what happens, and you know, it's probably 1 in 5 or fewer, but you know, it's a school lot, right? There's a number of children, you know, that are in the neighborhood, and they play and they walk and stuff, so there's that. I noticed that the sidewalk on this on Park, up at the corner up by the school, across from the school, the sidewalk is,
Park?
yeah, right the street right
Yeah.
here. So
Okay.
if you go out the door, go left, and
That's.
the other side of the street,
This is Court.
this is Court Street?
Our address is Park. but
Oh,
it's
God,
Court.
you're right, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Court Street, right, Court
Okay.
Street right here, so go left, go up to the end of the street.
yeah,
The sidewalk is an aisle.
yeah, it's terrible.
And that's the school. You know, and then people, you know, children cross there a lot. So I guess those are the things I want to point out. And then, I don't know if this is the right meeting for it, but I wanted to see if there was any updates on the status of the redevelopment or the application for the Briquette property.
Oh, that's all approved. That was approved. It was a D variance, so,
Right, was it- okay,
myself and Councilwoman
We were actually.
recused from it, but it was completely approved, and I don't know
okay.
what's going on with it.
Okay, I heard some like kind of talk on the block that there have been some additional, I guess, requests made of the developer to replace sewer connections for homes on Mine Street
I don't know.
off site of the property, and that was like a sticking point. And I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't talked to the developer, but
Yeah, I don't know. If you wanna send me an email, I
Okay.
can find out for you.
okay,
Send it to me. I'll
Okay.
find out for you. I'll talk to the DPW and see what.
you know, because we're, you know, we're actually like, you know, in support of that redevelopment, and you know, I think it's good, and you know, hopefully you can move ahead at some point. Fairly soon.
I know they were requested to do extra stuff regarding flooding.
Mhm,
They were
right.
satisfied the planning board on that.
Right.
I've not heard anything about sewer, so send me an email.
Okay, yeah, I'll send you an email. Okay, great.
All
I
right.
can just make one more comment real quick. If you have concerns about the parking lot for the school, maybe attend a DOE meeting and tell them perhaps they could make some modifications to the parking lot and. you know,
Yeah.
something that would maybe make it a bit more. Drive through there.
Yeah.
I suppose. That's it.
Those are good, right? What is the, I mean, I guess I'll look on the website, but do you know what timing of those meetings?
Generally the same as ours, I think.
No,
Or is that the high school?
No, the
I
catering
like
rate
the
changed to Thursday nights, they just had a meeting a couple of weeks ago, but it's Thursday nights, if you go on the Flemington Raritan School District website.
Okay.
They changed from Mondays to Thursdays last year.
Are they at the school? Or
They're at JPK's at 7 o'clock.
Okay,
Which is the middle school up there's 6 schools in the district, but the district board of ed meetings are right there.
yeah, okay, great, all right, thanks.
Thank you. I'll look for that email.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public? Okay, seeing none, we're gonna get on to the main agenda. We have approval of a bunch of minutes. Regular session, September 23rd, 2024. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Is there a second?
Sarah, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, executive session, September 23rd, 2024. Can I have a motion?
I'll move.
Is there a second?
Sarah, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We have nothing under consent. We have the introduction of the ordinance. What are we doing with this?
No. Yeah, guys.
Well, I mean, either Carlin or I will be on the September 9th email that included the final approved map that the plan approved.
Okay,
We have
so we
one
don't
that-
have it.
We have the resolution and the preliminary map that was produced, the map is from April of this year. Carlin looked for it all over when she was absent from.
Are you, is it your advice that we table this to the
We-
next
it's
meeting, or
incomplete.
can we vote for it
Okay,
pending
no,
the?
No,
what's in-
you
Yeah,
just want a map?
Map in the resolution they provided.
So on the
Date of meeting
last
said
page,
April.
it says September 9th. This map says September 9th, but it's very hard to read.
As long as it can be read, you can pull that out, mark it exhibit B, and you can introduce it. Good job, Carl. I'm fine with that, as long as you can make it out. Cause
Okay.
we probably have that in better form somewhere, and
Are
I,
you're okay with this,
Yeah.
attorney?
as long as she's got that map, which I have never seen before, but I have no issue.
It's the whole.
I mean, the governing body's gotta be comfortable too.
I think we're gonna move this to the bottom of the agenda. Can I have a motion to amend the agenda to move this, or to table it for till later?
I'll move.
Is there a second?
Sarah, second.
Okay, so we'll wait, we're gonna wait and do this later, so everybody has a chance to look at this. As a
I'm fine with it being complete, Carl is discovered.
You're fine with it?
The map is not that different except for the New York Avenue.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with this ordinance, but I don't vote,
Where's
so.
The last page.
Where'd you get the last page? What was it?
What?
I said, what did you print the page? Like,
Where did it come from, Carl? Who
Yeah.
sent it to you?
like when you printed this
I
document,
mean-
this was.
Okay,
all
Wiley.
attached, so.
Yeah, I think everything is from her.
And that's what it
In the
looked like?
resolution.
It looked like this was in black and white or something.
No, it was in color. I mean, I could print it in color, but.
So you
once
could
I
email,
scan
you
it-
could email it to the whole
I was
council
gonna
in
Once I
color.
scan it, I'll
Also
save it.
remember, it's
That's what I'll do.
introduced, you will have a chance.
Yeah, so if we introduce it
I have no-
tonight,
I'll save it and then.
and then send it to everybody so they can
color.
see it in color,
Yes.
and that would be good, so we could introduce it tonight if everybody's comfortable.
And then get the better looking.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah,
No,
Carl may have the color map, we'll get. it.
I do have a color map, but once I
Printed it.
copied it, it's just.
all right,
Yeah,
well,
they're governing
I'm gonna
body.
let everybody take a, look at it for the next couple of minutes while we keep moving on. All right, so we have a couple of public hearings. Ordinance 2024-21, an ordinance amending chapter 4 licensing to institute regulations for advertising signage in certain instances. This is the signage ordinance that the council worked on for many meetings and introduced at our last meeting. The public hearing, can I have a motion to open up the public hearing?
I'll move.
Is there a second? Our public hearing is now open. Is there anybody in the public or online? Raise your hand, please, if you have any comments. Seeing none, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll move.
Is there a second?
Sarah, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2024-21?
I'll move.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Roll call, please, Crowe.
Sure, Councilwoman Engelhardt,
Yes.
Councilwoman Fasara,
Yes.
Councilman Levitt,
Yes.
Council President Long,
Yes.
Councilman Parker,
Yes.
and Council Vice President Rossetti.
Yes.
Second public hearing is ordinance 2024-22, an ordinance amending chapter 26 zoning, section 2631, signs to amend the regulations for temporary signage. Again, this was worked on very hard by the council for many meetings. Can I have a motion to open to the public for the hearing?
I'll move.
Is there a second?
Sarah, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is now open. Any member of the public wishing to speak on this, please raise your hand online. Or come to the microphone if you're in the room. Seeing none, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll move.
Is there a second?
Officer.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, can I have a motion
Portia.
to,
Have we heard from the planning board on this? Has the planning board heard this? I mean, those.
Oh, I think so.
yes,
Pretty sure they did, but.
Yes,
I-
it is.
I
The
don't
planning
see that
board-
confirmation.
the planning board voted in
Yes.
Okay.
affirmatively
That's
that
fine,
this
that's-
was
I'm pretty sure-
consistent.
I did not receive that confirmation.
Yeah.
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 I'm behind on emails today. So want to check?
No, thank you for checking, but yes, the planning
I did
board,
read this issue on Friday, I wasn't sure. I
the
just-
planning board did concur. In fact, I know they did because they asked the question,
You were
we have to
there.
vote on both of them, and I said, no, just the
You
one.
were there. So,
Yes.
Okay, wanted to make sure.
So they only voted on one they needed to vote on, and Adrian
I
was
know
there,
you
so
were, but I talked to her earlier today, I didn't have the pleasure of talking, so.
you can talk to her. All right, can I have a motion, oh wait, so is there, I already did the motion in the second, right, to vote?
Yeah.
Carla?
No.
And then you did the-
Good job.
I didn't, no, we.
Now, could I have a motion to, I did have a motion to adopt ordinance 2024-22.
I'll move.
Is there a second?
Sarah.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Engelhardt.
Yes.
Councilwoman Fasar.
Yes.
Councilman Levitt.
Yes.
Council President Long.
Yes.
Councilman Parker.
Yes.
Council Vice President Rossetti.
Okay. Regular agenda, item 13.4, resolution 2024-137, authorizing the adoption of rules and regulations for the Flemington Borough Police Department. I have a motion to, for this resolution.
Parker.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Engelhardt.
Yes.
Councilwoman Fasaro.
Yes.
Councilman Levitt.
Yes.
Council President Long.
Yes.
Councilman Parker.
Yes.
And Council Vice President Rossetti.
Resolution 2024-138, resolution authorizing a trust fund grant application. This is the county recreation and trails grant. Can I have a motion to approve?
I'll move.
Is there a second?
Engelhardt will second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Engelhardt.
Yes.
Councilwoman Fasaro.
Yes.
Councilman Levitt.
Yes.
Council President Long.
Yes.
Councilman Parker.
Yes.
And Council Vice President Rossetti.
Resolution 2024-139, award of contract to Crossroads Paving, 386 South Street, Suite 169, Newark, New Jersey, 07145, for the William Street roadway improvement project. Can I have a motion to accept?
Move.
Is there a second?
Engelhardt will second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Engelhardt.
Yes.
Councilwoman Fasaro.
Yes.
Councilman Levitt.
Yes.
Council President Long.
Yes.
Councilman Parker.
Yes.
And Council Vice President Rossetti.
Resolution 2024-140, authorizing submission of a community forestry program as prepared by the Flemington Borough Shade Tree Commission pursuant to the New Jersey Shade Tree and Community Forestry Assistance Act, NJSA 13:I1L-17-1 at SEC. Can I have a motion to approve?
I'll move.
Is there a second?
Parker second.
Any discussion?
Comment?
Just, yeah.
Sure.
Liz, reading through that whole report, it was wonderful and it gave me a lot of insight into how you guys operate and how you make decisions. It was wonderful.
Great, glad to hear it was good. Yeah, I know they worked really, really hard, so, yeah.
Council President?
Just the basic, like, what is this, as far as like?
So this is, go ahead, Council.
Yeah, so I mean, it's literally what it said, the community forestry plan. So even though we're more of a suburban, urban, borough, we still are considered a forest, right? An urban forest. We have trees that help impact the environment. They help remediate flooding, right? Trees soaking up. We want to make sure that we maintain that. So part of what's gone into this is it's like a 5-year plan basically for how we're keeping track of all the trees, making sure that there's no hazardous trees, making sure that trees are being cared for properly, replaced as needed, like all these types of things that the the commission works on regularly. Shade trees for our sidewalks, which helps people want to linger and visit businesses more. Like it's all connected. But basically, it's just a 5-year plan for what their goals are. Again, by doing this and by Trent, thank you so much. He's going to be doing the core training that allows them to be in good standing with the state and apply for grants to help money with, for whatever they need. The programs, the public outreach, the adopt a tree, all the things that they do as a commission.
An update, we've had this plan, we've had it planned for a very long time. And available on our website. This just updates the last plan.
Update, right. It's all updated and I guess at some point over the time, we're not in good graces with the state. So this is just a step, like we have to do it to get back in their good light.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Liz.
Anybody else have any other questions or comments? Not, roll call please.
Councilwoman
Yes.
Engelhardt, Councilwoman Fasara,
Yes.
Councilman Levitt,
Yes.
Council President Long,
Yes.
Councilman Parker,
Yes.
and Council Vice President Rossetti.
Resolution 2024-141, award of contract to MSP Construction Corp. 19B Minnehaha Road, Flemington, New Jersey. Yes, that is how you pronounce it. For the Main Street Sanitary Sewer Improvement Project. Can I have a motion to adopt?
Well, move.
Is there a second?
Sarah will second.
Any discussion?
Did you see me raise my eyebrow?
Saw that smile on your face. Roll call please.
Councilwoman Engelhardt.
Yes.
Councilwoman Fasara,
Yes.
Councilman Levitt,
Yes.
Council President Long.
Yes.
Councilman Parker,
Yes.
Council Vice President Rossetti.
Resolution 2024-142, resolution authorizing a new emergency operation plan. May I have a motion, please?
Long move.
Is there a second?
Parker second.
Any discussion?
That's what, yeah, that's a start.
Roll call please.
Councilwoman Engelhardt,
Yes.
Councilwoman Fasara.
Yes.
Councilman Levitt,
Yes.
Council President Long.
Yes.
Councilman Parker,
Yes.
and Council Vice President Rossetti.
Okay, we're gonna go back to number 11, the introduction of the ordinance. Is everybody comfortable introducing this tonight? Knowing you'll get a color photo of the map in the next couple of minutes, please.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Sure.
Is this ordinance just to take away the garage? Or is it to approve the whole plan?
It's to,
Oh, wait, what are we
Because
doing?
it's a little, the wording is a little confusing.
The original one was, but the paper is updated, right? That's the new one?
I think that the new one should
Yeah, so
remove that ambiguity, Trent credit for that.
Having a new garage at 8 New York Avenue, block 19. So
Well,
it's like
this is my this is my question. The garage is like in my backyard. So do I have to
accuse yourself?
recuse myself?
Is
Because
it
we're
within
we're
200
voting
feet?
on the whole thing, but then there's this
I
thing
think
about the
so,
garage.
No,
So
no,
that's
no,
the
no,
part.
no.
Financial benefit to it, I mean. I
I don't care either way,
mean,
but
It's
I
a
don't
church,
know.
you can't buy it.
It's up to you.
Oh,
If you
it's
feel.
really by a church, but-
if we're voting on the whole thing, I'd like to vote on the whole thing. If we're only voting on the garage, then
No,
I'll.
we're voting on the entire
Then
package.
I'll just vote on
Unless
the
you feel
fence.
conflicted, Councilwoman.
I don't feel conflicted, it's a garage, but I just
I don't have an
I
issue.
didn't want to screw up the vote for anybody else, that's all.
Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, you're-
Okay,
You have a
we're all
question?
good?
I just asked the question.
Okay, we're good. Okay, so, and I'll have some time anyway, so, all right, so we've got ordinance 2024-23, an ordinance of the Borough of Flemington adopting an amended historic district map to remove, and, I should say, and to remove
Here
the
we
map.
go.
The
That's
garage
fine.
behind
Oh, it's weird.
8 New York, block 19, can we put in one word?
Yeah.
Thank you. And
As
to
amended.
remove
Wait, what?
the garage behind 8 New York, block 19, lot 7 Avenue as a contributing structure in the historic district. Can I have a motion to introduce?
Sarah?
Is there a second?
Engelhardt will second,
Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Engelhardt,
yes.
Councilwoman Fasara,
Yes.
Councilman Levitt,
Yes.
Council President Long,
Yes.
Councilman Parker,
Yes.
and Council Vice President Rossetti. Wait, what was the title gonna be?
You're just adding the word and between the word map and to.
Okay,
So it should be map
So I-
and to remove,
yeah, okay,
okay?
yep.
And Councilwoman Vice President, you voted? You did, okay.
Yes, I.
Okay,
Hear a whisper.
thank you, so the motion passes, public
Hold on,
hearing,
Marcia,
what?
No, it's fine, you're good, you're good.
Public hearing is what, October 29th? Is that our
Oh,
next
I'm
meeting?
sorry.
When is our next meeting?
28, 29.
29, today's the 15th, oh no, it's the
No.
28th.
It'll be
28th.
28th, because today's a Tuesday.
Bizarrely, it has to go back to the planning board.
This has to go back to
It's
the,
weird.
yes, this has to go back to the planning board,
So
and
that's-
Send it to Eileen.
they canceled their October 22nd meeting. So you
Yeah.
guys have a lot of time now.
It's weird.
Oh, wait, so we're
They've got
doing,
notice today that they canceled. the
yeah,
October
so we're doing
22nd.
it in November then?
I guess we're gonna have to, what's,
Okay.
so they meet November 8th?
Yeah.
I know that.
I could do that.
Wait, I can look at my calendar, I just put it on.
It's before the league, the week before. the league.
Right, it's late, because I have this on, set on airplane mode, so you gotta see if you can bring my calendar up. So there, since they canceled on the 22nd, their next meeting is. When the heck is it? The 19th. Is that right, HB? The 19th, and then they're meeting on the 26th. So it's the 19th, so I guess, we won't be able to do the public hearing for this until the 25th of November. So that's,
I thought we had one meeting in November.
I have a meeting on the 12th of November and one on the 25th
Oh, yeah.
this year, we'll see that. Okay, so that'll, it looks like that's the public hearing is the 25th, because they canceled the planning.
I just want to say one more thing, if anybody would like, anybody from the HBC to show up for the public hearing, unfortunately. Then I have to do it.
Oh, that would be a good idea. I just have to confirm. With the planning board, that I know they canceled it because I saw the notes today.
Yeah, I gave it to us.
I think it's a good idea too. Okay, all right, so that's that. We have no work session, we're up to public comment session number 2. Okay, seeing that, chief?
No, nothing.
Okay,
Nothing
anybody online?
Nope.
You can't even see who's online, so it doesn't matter, I'm blind. All right, item 16, payment of bills, authorizing payment of bills in the amount of $2,087,000, $87,419.06. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Engelhardt will second,
Roll call?
Councilwoman Engelhardt?
yes.
Councilwoman Nazaro?
Yes.
Councilman Levitt?
Yes.
Council President Long?
Yes.
Councilman Parker?
Yes.
And Council Vice President.
We have an executive session. Thank you.
Are we gonna do the other ordinance?
We just did it.
The historical.
We just did it.
Oh, that takes place?
It has to go back to the planning board now for concurrence.
No, the one I just made copies.
You did everything you needed to do, you're good.
How's it?
Carla
100%.
Carla had some surgery yesterday. She needs to go
No.
home.
I really do.
You're good, Carl.
You're okay, we're all good. Okay, so I do want to just give a brief update under public safety, the executive session. So if you can stick around, it'll take 5 minutes under number 2. Then a motion to go into executive session.
Laura moved.
Is there a second?
Levitt will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I would like rather not give a break so we can just blow this out real fast and get out of here.
You're like.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Parker second.
All in favor?